Hello and welcome to Startup TV. We're here at none other than Adam Street Club and we're joined by its owner. Hello, James Minter.
Hey,
how are you?
Very well, thanks.
Good stuff. So, we often film in the Adam Street Club and it's often mentioned in the magazine, but we don't know an awful lot about it. Well, certainly our viewers and maybe our readers. So perhaps you could tell us a little bit about how you got started here.
Yeah, so after school I joined the Navy and went to university through the Navy, and about 10 years after that left and came to London. And my father had these buildings off the Strand, most of which were empty because it's sort of late 90s. And we had the idea to set up serviced offices in the buildings above the club. And that happily coincided with the beginning of the dot-com boom. So January 99, we set up serviced offices upstairs. Down here, where we are now, used to be an old actors club that was very sweet and ticking along, but it wasn't really making very much money, and it wasn't very. It was quite busy certain nights of the week. But the great advantage of it, particularly to my 29-year-old mind at the time, was that it had a 3 o'clock license, which was a very appealing thought at the time. So we, after about a year, gently moved the actors on because they didn't want to cooperate. And I started the club, we stripped it out and started again. And of course, when you're starting up a private members club, you have to have some hook for what your membership is going to be. And I'd sort of luckily experienced a whole wave of entrepreneurship and enthusiasm surrounding the dot-com boom, and seen things like First Tuesday, which is connecting money and ideas. Those days you could walk into a First Tuesday meeting with a good idea and walk out with a cheque for £1 million in business. Those days are long gone, but I was going, well, why isn't there a fixed place where that situation where money and ideas meet is happening? And why isn't actually a central place where entrepreneurs are celebrated and there's a club for entrepreneurs to talk to each other? And there are all sorts of advantages having a club that does that. Entrepreneurs famously probably aren't understood by anyone else other than other entrepreneurs because they're quite overly optimistic, over-energetic people, and they go through incredible stresses and strains. And no one else, unless you've been an entrepreneur, can quite understand what you're going through and what you're thinking. It's often a very lonely life being an entrepreneur, so being surrounded by other people who are entrepreneurs would seem to be a big advantage.
Yeah.
And one or two other things like it's very useful to have a place where people could sit and work in the middle of London. The way that technology is moving, the modern way of working is to our advantage. So this is a great place to sit down and work rather than being in a coffee shop or a hotel lobby.
So what were the main things that you learned then? Because that's a steep learning curve, as any of our viewers will testify to. It's an incredibly difficult task to start a business, regardless where you're starting it from or how you're starting it, and building it to the level of success like Adam Street.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the interesting things was, and I come from the Navy where we obviously hadn't done any business at all, and suddenly I was running a business. And I thought, well, all I know up until now is I've been trained how to drive a ship around the oceans. What am I going to know about a business? And I think that's probably a common feeling that anyone setting up a business. Actually, no one will probably know all about your business because you're the one who's thought about it. And by just getting on with it, you'll quickly become the expert in your field, and you will have the sense of leadership and knowledge and experience that no one else has, and you are a very valid person to be setting up that business. So I think that was one of the lessons. I think, again, coming from a Navy career, we were never, the concept of value and money was completely alien to my way of thinking. So that was something I had to learn. Is it worth spending £150,000 on a telephone system? Well, I have no idea, but it turned out it was. And I think I came up with some ways of doing it. But again, there are certain things you have to take a bit of a leap of faith. So that was quite difficult. I think, many people setting up the business might be experienced in marketing and sales, but that's a key area of your business that has to be thought through really, really carefully. We were quite lucky with the serviced offices because eventually organisations came along that did the marketing and sales for us, so that you have service office agents. But there are other aspects of that we had to sell, and again with the club, that's another area that's again, I suppose you've got to recognise your weaknesses and your strengths, and if you either need to train yourself to do those things or hire people in your team who are very good at those things and make it work.
So now are you at a point now where you're seeing more entrepreneurs than ever coming in, or are you?
Yeah, we are. I think the word entrepreneurs is, for me, quite a difficult one. So 2 years ago, I went off to Notting Hill to go and set up another business, and came back here in January. And I was reassessing where we are. 10 years ago, we set the club up as a place for entrepreneurs, and 10 years later, we're still calling ourselves a club for entrepreneurs. And is that still relevant? What's our position in that space? And the whole entrepreneur space has grown hugely in the intervening 10 years. I mean, you guys weren't around 10 years ago. There's a massive market that's there to service the whole entrepreneurs community. And I think in the public's mind, the word entrepreneurs has come to be associated with those two big programs, Dragon's Den and The Apprentice. And that's not real life. It's very important, and I totally support those programs because they are supporting the whole ethos of being entrepreneurs. But they don't necessarily portray it in the way that it actually happens in real life. And as a result, I think the word entrepreneurs has come to really mean more startups. Maybe we need to segment the word entrepreneurs.
Okay.
A whole load of different categories, subcategories within the entrepreneurial.
Perhaps you should have a different room for each different subsection of entrepreneur.
Maybe we should do that. But as Robin and Hamish were saying, I think it's actually really important to have old entrepreneurs and young entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs from India, entrepreneurs from Sheffield, and a whole gamut of entrepreneurs meet each other, because that's when exciting ideas happen.
Absolutely. So it's all about collaboration, and it's kind of representative of the fact that we are moving and almost rediscovering our social identity, interacting with one another and what have you, at Twitter. But Adam Street, you have a real life place to come and meet other like-minded people.
Yeah.
Entrepreneur or not, from Sheffield or from India.
And actually, it's really interesting. 10 years ago, when we set this up, we thought we were going to have an online club and an offline club.
Oh, really?
And I think that was, like a lot of ideas 10 or 12 years ago, it was the right idea. I mean, boo.com was the right idea at the wrong time. And we've now come to see that there are massive social networks out there that do all those things that we thought we might be able to create. But that's not to say that the physically meeting people is a massively important thing. We're human beings. We expect to look each other in the eye and see whether we can trust someone and get on with them, and there's a chemistry there.
Yeah.
Well, there isn't a chemistry there, and that's really important.
Yeah. And so how do you see Adam Street finally then? How do you kind of see it moving on? Have you got any other projects I'm interested to know? Or?
Well, we're currently looking at whether we can expand next door, because I'd love to have a roof terrace.
Wow, that would be good.
And we could do with a bit more daylight because we're quite underground. There are a number of people we're talking to abroad, so we might set up some affiliations with clubs abroad. And there are lots of services that we could bolt onto what we're doing at the moment, sort of push what we're doing at the moment further forward.
That's great. Well, we look forward.
We're examining a number of things at the moment.
Oh, okay. So we look forward to seeing maybe some new developments. But in the meantime, you've got a great place here.
Thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.